All right. Hi. Today we are going to be doing an activity taking a look at language, and you're going to be taking a dialect quiz. But the before we get into that, I just want to make sure that we kind of understand what language is, and just understanding that it's really important in terms of culture. So, when we think of language, I think we all can kind of understand what we're talking about there. But a definition, a kind of a simple definition, is a set of sounds and symbols that is used for communication. When we think about different languages, we oftentimes think about this idea that if we can understand each other, then we're probably speaking the same language, although we might be speaking different dialects of that language. So you can think of a dialect as accent or a way of speaking or the words that you use. When we think of speaking two different languages, we think that we probably will not be able to understand each other. And so we can kind of keep that as a rule of thumb. However, there definitely are some exceptions. And the video that you're going to be watching today will kind of talk about those. So, for example, Chinese is considered to be one language, but there are many different dialects of Chinese. And within that, people might not be able to understand each other. However, they would be able to still read each other's written language. There are also some languages that are considered different languages, but if one person is speaking one language and another person is speaking another language, they might be able to understand each other. Language is a really important part of culture. It shapes the way that we think. It's tied to all of our cultural traits. And one thing that can be concerning to people is when languages become endangered or when people speak languages that not very many people speak anymore. Because losing a language loss and losing your language can really be devastating to your identity and to your culture. Um, this chart, if we were actually in class, we would maybe do a discussion with this, but the bottom one just shows the top 10 languages worldwide by millions of speakers. And so you can see the distribution here. The These are all people's first languages, so people do, and some of you guys speak multiple languages. But you can see that worldwide, majority of people speak Chinese as their first language. Spanish is number two, and English is number three. Now, if we were to take a look at this, and we were to take a look at what language is spoken most worldwide, and especially as a second language by people, it would be English. And so English is the most common second language spoken by people around the world. And because of that, English has become um, a language that a lot of people communicate in. And we call that a lingua franca. It's not a term that you're going to need to know, but people communicate. People who speak different languages oftentimes use English to communicate. And you see that through these charts. So, in terms of number of internet users worldwide, English speakers are the most common internet user, and then Chinese number two, Japanese number three. However, the content on the internet is very much majority in English. And so, even though people are coming from different languages when they're using the internet, many people are actually using English as a way to communicate on the internet and just across the world. I think about myself as I've had the opportunity to travel to Europe. Um, I can get by with my English in a country like France or in a country like Finland or Germany. Although it's not the first language of the people living there, I'm able to communicate to them because they have all learned English in school. We are going to be taking a look at dialects today. And so when we think about languages, we think about Spanish, English, Russian as our languages, and we categorize languages in lots of different ways. So languages get categorized into subfamilies. And so, for example, English is a Germanic language, and so is German. Spanish is a Romantic language, so is those ones are the ones that derive from Latin. And so other Romantic languages are Italian, Portuguese, and then language families up here. The most common language family is the Indo-European, and all of those languages would fall into the Indo-European language. But what we're going to be focusing on is dialects. And so dialects are variations within a particular language. And so if you've ever been to different regions of the country, or you come from that region of the country, you will notice, for example, that people in the South speak a lot different than we do here in the Midwest. And so you're going to be taking a dialect quiz as your activity for today. So When you go to Schoology, or what you should obviously already be on Schoology, you're going to see the step 2, which is to watch this language video. So this is about 4 minutes long, so please watch this video. And then you can open up assignment. It's not linked here quite yet, so I'm having some difficulty linking it, but it will be when you are watching this video. But you're going to be opening up this dialect quiz. And so this is your assignment. There are 6 questions that you're going to be answering today. But it's kind of fun. You use this link and you take a quiz about the way that you pronounce things. So it says, how y'all, yos, and you guys. All right, so the first question said, how would you address a group of 2 or more people? If I were going to answer this, I would look at the options. If I were going to say a bunch of people, I would refer to them as you guys. And so you just choose the one that would most fit with what you are saying. And so obviously, like, some of these you're not even going to maybe recognize. Like, you may not recognize yins as like a way that people would address a group of people. You'll probably recognize the word like y'all. However, I don't use that, so I skip. I go to the next one. And when you do that, you'll see that the people in the red regions of this map are more likely to use the term you guys, and then the people in the blue regions of the map are less likely to use the word you guys. What do you call a small road parallel to the highway? I would call that a frontage road. I think service road is fine too, but I think I would most likely use it, call it a frontage road. And I go here and I see that, oh, like actually in Minneapolis area, we're much more likely to use the word frontage road, but that's not super common across the country. What do you call a traffic situation in which several roads meet in a circle? I would call it a traffic circle or a roundabout. I would probably more likely call it a roundabout. And you can see that that is most common. So you go through all this, and then you are going to get a map of places that speak the most similar to you. And so there's going to be 3 cities. So Minneapolis might be one of your cities, or you might get 3 cities that are not even in this part of the country. So it says, talk to one other person in the class. How did your results compare to theirs? Why did you think that they are similar or different? If you have the opportunity to do that, great. Probably won't. So you can definitely skip over question number 4. And then task number 2, you're going to look at these maps and write down 3 dialect differences that are interesting to you from these maps. Once again, we talk about differences. You need to say, I do this, but other people do this. That's one difference. If you don't have that full difference, you don't have that full comparison, that's not a full difference. So make sure you're doing that 1, 2, and 3. So here's an example. For the word syrup, I say syrup, but other people say syrup. That's not my example, but you look at these maps and you can look to see, for example, there's a clear divide when it comes to pronouncing the word pajamas. So down here, I say pajamas, like the word jam, but other people in this region of the country, in the South, they call it pajamas. Okay. All right. So I think you guys get it. Hopefully, if you have any questions, please email me. I am available during the times about 8:15 to 11, and then 1 to 2:30. All right. Have a good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever. All right. Have a good